what's unique about us is that we're still around. So you can walk. I'm walking to a pub in Nace not so long ago, and it was a really nice pub, and they had their own soft drinks brands, and there was all these old bottles in the 50s all around the place. But they've closed 50 years now. So where the uniqueness of Football Special is that we're still around here, and we've still stood the test of time. So that's the basis of the business that I'm now working on.
Yeah. So when in the downtime, the winters seasons, your great grandfather was manufacturing. Was it just McDade's football special, or was he doing other flavors at the time?
No, so they did other things, and what was probably interesting, from now when we look back now in history, through the 60s, 70s, it wasn't really Football Special they were selling. It was lemonades and oranges and things like that because they were the predominant flavors of the time. They developed Football Special in the 60s, but it wasn't our biggest selling product. Because at that point in time, there wasn't national brands. There was no Club Orange. So if you wanted an orange flavor drink and you were in North Donegal, you bought McDade's Orange and you bought McDade's Lemonade and you bought McDade's Cola. As Ireland, I suppose, developed and the market developed, these national brands and then international brands came in. So, if you wanted a cola, all of a sudden you might drink Coca-Cola. You mightn't drink McDade's Cola. So what became more prominent then was our unique flavors. So obviously Football Special is our most unique, but we do a banana flavor, we do a pineapple flavor. They're all flavors that we've done for a long, long time that now, that in say come the 80s, 90s really started to come to the fore then as the biggest selling products that we do.
Yeah. And why football special? How did they create this flavor?
So they, really the background of it is that my grandfather and his brothers were very heavily involved in setting up Swilly Rovers in Roehampton. And Swilly Rovers had their heyday in the 60s. So won 2 FAI Cups in the 60s and were very, very strong and would have been regarded as the premier Donegal club at that time. And so they knew that that people used to fill the cups and drink alcohol out of the cups, whatever. And they also knew that didn't really fit in with the sporting sort of landscape. So they wanted to develop a product that they could fill the cups with after they won, but that wasn't alcoholic. So they started messing around with flavors. And one of the key advantages that we had was that my grandfather's brother, Eamon, had been sent away to go work in a proper soft drinks factory to learn what to do. So when he came back,
when you say a proper soft drinks factory,
a big, they're long since gone now, but a big brand in Belfast at the time. So
do you know the name?
I actually don't know the name. I think because that's there. Yeah, no, I can't. No, I don't know the name, but a big company in Belfast. So he went to learn the science, I suppose, around it, and he kind of did an apprenticeship there. Came back, and what was key to Football Special was when they would mess around and mix flavors. It is very similar to baking a cake. Like you're just putting different flavors in. It's just it's liquid instead of being anything being solid. My uncle Eamon was very keen on documenting exactly what they put in. So how many milliliters of that flavor? How many milliliters of that? How long did you put that in for? So that whenever we came upon the flavor of Football Special, we were able to replicate it then again. It wasn't the next day. So we went, oh, that's not as good as yesterday's batch. How did we do? He had it all scientifically wrote down, documented, I guess. Mm-hmm. So they were able to get a consistent flavor then. And then one of the additions was they put, it comes with a foamy head so that it looks like, it looked a lot more, but it typically looks like a pint of Smithwick's. Like that's, so it was exciting. So it would fill this cup and then foam out over the top of the cup. So that's like a cool thing to do. And these guys are all at the time still heavily involved with Swilly Rovers. Some of them are, some of my grandfather's brothers are still playing for Swilly Rovers at this time. And, this is, they're going to Dublin to games. Like this is a serious entity, like at the time. So that is where sort of, I suppose, a Football Special sort of became famous then, as Swilly Rovers went, Football Special went with it. So, but it was, an exciting non-alcoholic product. So I like to say we were like the first zero alcohol beer, really. We were on that curve long before anybody else thought of. So that's how Football Special came to be.
And the name, was it Football Special?
No, it's called Football Cup originally.
Okay, and when it launched, Football Cup?
Football Cup, yeah.
And what year? Or decade?
The 60s,
okay.
mid-60s.
Yeah.
And then it became football. Somewhere along the way, it became Football Special then.
And was it primarily sold to football teams? Was that kind of the...
They used to bring it with them, yeah. They'd bring it and they'd put it behind the bar at events that they would go to, wherever, whatever club they would go and play in. You got to remember too, like, they would, talk locally, and definitely hearing in the show, and they would talk about the summer cups and how big they were. I mean, they would be getting 2,000 people at Sully Park for games and stuff. This was, this was a
Jesus.
huge event that professional footballers would only have from Britain would only have 40-week contracts. So they would be available to play in the summer. So they would come back and play in these summer cups that would have thousands of people at them. And obviously Donegal was always a tourist spot. So there was always tourism in Donegal. So, the summers are always busy in Donegal. So there was always stuff going on. And and Football Special became a part then of the tradition, I guess, of Donegal at that point.
Yes, yes. So I have fond memories of Football Special as a kid. It was like you're playing football, and then you would get a bottle of Football Special, and it has a unique flavor. And I can't even describe like what kind of flavor would you say it is?
Well, I mean, that's the beauty.
Is
of
it like
Football
a
Special.
secret recipe?
Oh yeah, very secret. So there's only two people, the recipe. So me and my dad are not able to be in the one room at the same time now, and all this. It's very highly guarded secret. And it's 7 flavors mixed together, and it tastes totally unique. Again, that's probably one of the reasons. Certainly one of the reasons that we're still around. It's not just a cola. It's not just anything else. It's a totally unique flavor. In the same way, so if people who haven't tasted it, think about your Iron Brews, your Dr. Peppers. That's what you're going with. It's a blended flavor. And it tastes like Football Special, and you just got to go and get a bottle to try it.
Yeah,
but
we have a few here today.
Yeah.
So Football Special's been around since the 60s. I remember it in the 90s, and it only seems to be getting stronger as a brand. You've launched more flavors and in ice cream as well. Has it always been that way from the 60s, or was it just that there was an X amount of flavors and that was kind of the way the business was? Or
no, I mean predominantly what. So if you take you back to when Football Special, it came out, again, we're bottling Guinness, we're bottling Football Special, but you can imagine that we're bottling a lot more Guinness than we're bottling a Football Special. Spin that on, then later time we became the Guinness agent for North Donegal, basically, and we became a wholesale company. So we became a very large alcohol wholesaler that had a very small soft drinks brand that we owned, and what ultimately happened is that the business focused too much on wholesaling and didn't focus on the magic that we had that was Football Special. So nobody in the business really, I mean, I'm sure they thought this, but nobody ever said, we've got to take this Football Special brand and sell it in Cork. What they thought was, we got to sell more alcohol to our key customers in Donegal. And that commercially, that made sense, but it didn't think about what the future would hold. So there's consolidation in the wholesale industry. Again, if Donegal is still unique in that there's still probably 6 or 7 alcohol wholesalers around. But if you're in other parts of the country, there's maybe 2 or 3 now. And that's ultimately when that consolidation came around, the wholesale business started to suffer. So in the late, around 2008 or so, we sold off the wholesale company and got out of wholesaling to focus just solely on Football Special. So now all energy of the business only goes into the soft drinks brand. And so that's why you're starting to see it grow, because we're now giving it the proper energy that it needed.
And in 2008, who would have been?
So my dad was in charge then.
Just your dad?
Just my dad, yeah. Yeah, so he took over from my grandfather in the mid-90s. And he did a phenomenal job then of really dragging the business into modern times. Terms of, it's interesting now we're sitting here with a table of glass bottles of Football Special, but I can remember as a child in the 90s, we were only in glass. The retailers did not want glass. No, we did not want, we had to do plastic bottles of Football Special if we wanted to survive. And so my dad went and put a plastic manufacturing facility in, which was a huge step. Now, if he had seen the future, he would have just stayed in glass, because it came back around. Now people think glass is premium and want it again and stuff. And so we're back now manufacturing glass bottles after it being a big to-do to not manufacture glass bottles. But he stewarded the company at that time. We went into plastic bottles, and he then just changed all the systems, things like, really basic things like, IT systems. Like, my grandfather wouldn't have thought about that as that being a big deal. Everything was kind of cached and stuff. It just was, it probably was fine in the late 70s, but by the mid 90s, it's like, oh, hold on, like you're way behind the times here. So he modernized the whole thing, which again has put the business on a footing that I can do something with. He could have easily turned around and said, I can't do this. Like, my dad had a very successful career outside of Football Special. So it was a labor of love for him. And thankfully he did it because he kept it alive for me to now to build on.
Yeah. So obviously you're the fourth generation, but as it moved down the generations, I assume there was multiple family members involved here and there, like brothers, sisters.
Yeah. There was, so my grandfather's generation, all of the brothers. Well, no, so two of them moved to Scotland, and the ones who left in Donegal all worked in the business.
So that's his brothers or his sons?
His brothers. So my grandfather's brothers. So my dad's uncles and
Yep.
all worked in the business. And we had other things in Ramelton, like we had a farm outside of Ramelton, we had a shop in Ramelton. The McDaid's was a big entity. There was lots of people working there. But ultimately it ended up being left. It ultimately became just my grandfather's company and his brother Charlie, who had no children. So I guess it became an R branch of the family then. So, and my dad has two siblings. His eldest brother is a priest, so he was never involved in the family business. And then sister, so again, she was a product of her time. She wasn't going to get the family business. So my dad gets the business, and then I have four older sisters, but my mother likes to say they all have real jobs. So none of them, had an interest in the business. So that's how they all did their time working, and they were quite happy to go off and do something else. So
yeah. And when you came into the business, or when I say when you were going up, was it like, I'm going to work for, McDaid's Football Special?
Yeah, well,